They told us King Tut's golden mask was the most studied artifact in human history. Every inch measured, every detail catalogued, every secret already extracted from the treasure, which is 3,300 years old. We thought we knew everything about it. We were catastrophically wrong. A team of researchers just aimed a quantum imaging scanner at the mask, a piece of technology that can see through solid gold without touching it. What the computer detected hiding beneath the surface was not just unexpected, it was biologically impossible. The scan revealed organic material, cellular structures that should not exist, and a pattern of microfractures that tells a story no Egyptologist was prepared to hear. The mask was not made for Tutankhamun. It was stolen, and the person it was originally designed for might rewrite the entire history of the 18th dynasty. The machine that sees through time. For over a century, we studied the mask the old-fashioned way. We looked at it. We measured it. We took photographs under different lights. We documented every scratch, every hieroglyph, every curve of the golden face. But we could never see inside. Gold is dense. It blocks X-rays. It reflects light. It guards its secrets. Traditional imaging techniques hit a wall when they encounter pure metal. You can photograph the surface, but you cannot read the layers beneath without cutting into the artifact. And no one was going to take a saw to King Tut's mask. That limitation held for decades. But in 2024, a collaboration between the Egyptian Ministry of Antiquities and a team of quantum physicists from MIT changed the rules entirely. They brought a device to Cairo that operates on principles most people would classify as science fiction. It is called a quantum entanglement scanner. The technology relies on paired photons, particles of light that are linked at the quantum level. When one photon hits the gold and bounces back, its entangled partner retains information about what lies beneath the surface. By analyzing the interference patterns between the two photons, the machine constructs a three-dimensional map of the interior without ever penetrating the metal. It sounds like magic, but it is physics. When they turned it on, the mask became transparent. The scan took 48 hours to complete. The machine fired billions of photon pairs at the surface, layer by layer, building a digital reconstruction of everything hidden inside. The gold itself is only a few millimeters thick in most places, hammered over a wooden core that has long since decayed. But what the scanner found was not empty space. It was a graveyard of biological information. The first anomaly appeared in the cheek area. The quantum data showed microscopic voids in the gold, patterns that matched the cellular structure of human skin. This should not exist. When gold is hammered into shape over a form, it compresses and smooths. Any organic residue should have been crushed into dust or oxidized away 3,000 years ago. But the scan was clear. There were preserved cell walls, remnants of collagen fibers, and even traces of melanin pigmentation. The mask had been in direct contact with a face. Not just any face, a living face. And the contact was so intimate, so prolonged, that the gold absorbed a biological imprint. The lead researcher, Dr. Amina Khalil, ran the scan 3 more times. She thought it was a calibration error, but the data held. She compared the cellular structures to known samples of ancient Egyptian tissue. The match was undeniable. This was human biological material, preserved in a way that modern forensic science is only beginning to understand. But the biology was just the opening act. As the team analyzed the full dataset, they noticed something even more disturbing. The mask was not one piece. It was an assembly. The quantum scan revealed seam lines, hidden joints where separate sections of gold had been fused together. Most alarming was a clear boundary around the eyes and the cartouche on the forehead. These sections had been removed and replaced. The craftsmanship was flawless on the surface, but at the quantum level, the evidence was brutal. Someone had taken this mask apart and reassembled it. They had erased the original owner's name and inscribed Tutankhamun's in its place. The implications were staggering. The most famous object in Egypt, the face that has defined our image of ancient royalty for a century, was a forgery. Not a modern forgery, an ancient one. Someone in the 14th century BCE committed identity theft on a cosmic scale. They stole a funeral mask, altered it, and placed it on the wrong pharaoh. And they did it so well that we did not notice for over 3,000 years. But why? Why would the royal craftsmen, the most skilled artisans in the ancient world, resort to recycling a mask? Why did they not just make a new one? The answer to that question leads us into a conspiracy that involves a vanished queen, a religious civil war, and a secret so dangerous that an entire generation tried to erase it from history. The quantum scan did not just find evidence of tampering, it found a name, and that name should have been destroyed: the ghost in the gold. When the team isolated the replaced sections of the mask, they ran the quantum data through an algorithm designed to reconstruct obscured text. This technology was originally developed to read burnt scrolls from Pompeii without unrolling them. It detects the microscopic grooves left by ancient tools, the pressure marks of chisels and hammers that shaped the gold. Even if the surface has been polished smooth, the quantum scan can see the echo of what was there before. The algorithm processed for 72 hours. When the results appeared on the screen, the room went silent. Beneath Tutankhamun's name, beneath the layers of reworked gold, was another cartouche. The hieroglyphs spelled out a name that Egyptologists knew but could never prove belonged to a physical object: Neferneferuaten. This was the throne name of a shadowy ruler who reigned for about 3 years during the chaotic period between Akhenaten and Tutankhamun. Most scholars believe this was Nefertiti, Akhenaten's famous queen, ruling in her own right after his death. But her reign was so controversial, so politically toxic, that later pharaohs erased almost every trace of her rule. We have no statues, no temples, no tomb. We only have fragments of text where her name was deliberately hacked out of the stone. And now, thanks to quantum imaging, we have her mask. Or rather, we have proof that her mask was repurposed for a boy king, who died too young to have his own funeral equipment ready. The discovery confirmed a theory that researchers had whispered about for years, but could never prove. When Tutankhamun died suddenly at 18 or 19, the court was unprepared. He had no successor lined up, no completed tomb, and no finished burial goods. The priests and officials had to scramble. So they opened the royal workshops and grabbed whatever was available. And what was available was the confiscated funeral equipment of a disgraced queen. The evidence of this theft goes beyond the name. The quantum scan revealed that the mask's proportions were wrong for a male face. The cheekbones were too high, the jawline too delicate. When the team used the biological imprint data to reconstruct the original face shape, the result was undeniably female. The mask was designed for a woman. The alterations made to fit it onto Tutankhamun's mummy were crude by comparison to the original craftsmanship. They widened the chin slightly, added a false beard, and hoped nobody would look too closely. But the most chilling detail was not the stolen identity. It was the violence. The quantum scan showed microfractures radiating outward from the cartouche area. These were not stress cracks from age or handling. They were impact marks. Someone had taken a hammer and a chisel and attacked the gold with enough force to dent the surface. Then they smoothed it over and reinscribed the name. This was not a careful transfer of resources. This was desecration. The people who altered this mask were angry. To understand why, we have to go back to the heretic pharaoh. Akhenaten was Tutankhamun's father, though the royal family tried very hard to obscure that fact later. Akhenaten is famous for his religious revolution. He abandoned the traditional Egyptian gods and declared that only one deity mattered, the Aten, the disk of the sun. He moved the capital to a new city in the desert, Amarna, and forced the entire kingdom to follow his new religion. The priests of the old gods, especially Amun, lost their power and their wealth overnight. When Akhenaten died, the kingdom was in chaos. The economy was collapsing, the empire was losing territory, and the priests wanted revenge. Nefertiti, or whoever ruled as Neferneferuaten, tried to hold the line. She attempted to restore some of the old religious practices while maintaining her husband's reforms. It was a political tightrope, and she fell. When she died or was deposed, the backlash was total. The priests declared that the entire Amarna period was a heresy. They smashed the statues, defaced the temples, and tried to erase the royal family from history. But here's the catch. Tutankhamun was Akhenaten's son, He couldn't escape the association. When he died young and suddenly, possibly murdered, possibly from disease, the priests saw an opportunity. They could bury him with the stolen regalia of the heretic queen. If anyone ever found the tomb, they would see Tutankhamun's name, not Nefertiti's. The heresy would stay buried. The mask would hide the truth. It worked for 3,000 years, until a quantum scanner looked beneath the gold and found the ghost. The biology refuses to die. The cellular material trapped in the mask was not just evidence of contact. It was evidence of preservation. Dr. Khalil's team extracted microscopic samples from the scan data and compared them to modern mummies. What they found was unprecedented. The biological residue showed no signs of typical decomposition. The collagen had not broken down. The melanin had not degraded. It was as if the tissue had been flash frozen at the moment of death. This led the team to a disturbing hypothesis. What if the mask was not placed on a body that had already been mummified? What if it was placed on a face that was still fresh? The quantum data showed evidence of moisture absorption in the gold, patterns consistent with contact with damp skin, not the dry linen of a wrapped mummy. If this is true, it means the mask was fitted while Nefertiti's body was still in the early stages of preparation. And if the alterations were made shortly after her death, it suggests a rushed, secretive burial. Some researchers believe Nefertiti was not given a royal funeral at all. There is no tomb in the Valley of the Queens bearing her name. No sarcophagus, no canopic jars. It is as if she vanished. The quantum evidence suggests she might have been buried in secret, stripped of her regalia, and then exhumed years later when Tutankhamun died. The mask was the only piece valuable enough to repurpose. The rest of her burial goods were likely melted down or destroyed. But the biology tells another story. The preservation of cellular material at this level is almost supernatural. Modern forensic experts consulted on the findings noted that even under ideal conditions, human tissue does not leave this kind of imprint on metal. Gold is inert. It does not react with organic compounds. Yet the scan showed chemical bonds between the gold and the biological residue that should not form naturally. Some speculated that the Egyptians used a preservative we do not know about, a chemical process lost to history. Others suggested something more unnerving. What if the gold itself was part of the ritual? Ancient Egyptian texts describe gold as the flesh of the gods. They believed it was a divine material that could preserve the soul. The mask was not just a decorative piece. It was a magical object, designed to trap the essence of the deceased and hold it in stasis until the resurrection. If the priests believed this, and if they later wanted to erase Nefertiti, removing her mask and giving it to someone else would be the ultimate spiritual violation. It would not just erase her from history, it would steal her afterlife. The quantum scan revealed one more detail that chilled everyone who saw it. In the area around the mouth, the gold showed compression marks consistent with a struggle. The biological material there was smeared, as if the face had moved against the metal. One researcher, off the record, suggested that the mask might have been forced onto the face while the person was still alive. This is almost impossible to prove, but the data does not rule it out. If true, it would mean Nefertiti did not just die. She was sealed into her own death mask as part of an execution or a ritual silencing. The establishment wants this theory buried. Official statements from the Egyptian ministry emphasize the importance of the mask as a cultural treasure and downplay the violence implied by the quantum data. But the raw scans are available to researchers worldwide, and the more people look at them, the more the evidence points toward a crime, not a simple reuse of materials. The mask was not recycled, it was weaponized. The pattern of power. When you step back and look at the broader context, the story of the mask becomes a blueprint for how power rewrites history. Tutankhamun's tomb was discovered in 1922 by Howard Carter. It became an instant global sensation. The golden mask became the symbol of ancient Egypt. Museums fought to display it. It appeared on magazine covers, in textbooks, in movies. The image of that serene golden face became synonymous with pharaonic power and eternal rest. But that image was a lie. The face we have been worshipping for a century was not Tutankhamun's design. It was Nefertiti's stolen identity. And the reason it survived intact was not because Tutankhamun was important. It was because the tomb was forgotten. Robbers looted almost every other royal burial in the Valley of the Kings within years of the funerals. Tutankhamun's tomb escaped only because it was buried under rubble from a later construction project. The universe preserved the evidence by accident. The quantum scan has forced Egyptologists to confront an uncomfortable truth. We do not know as much as we thought. For decades, the narrative was clean. Akhenaten was the heretic. Tutankhamun was the boy king who restored order. Nefertiti was the beautiful queen who vanished. But the mask proves the transitions were not peaceful. Someone violently erased Nefertiti, someone stole her face, and someone placed it on a child's corpse to hide the crime. This has implications for other artifacts. If the mask was repurposed, what else was? Researchers are now looking at other objects from Tutankhamun's tomb with fresh suspicion. The golden throne shows cartouches that were clearly altered. The canopic coffins do not match the style of the outer sarcophagus. Even the famous golden shrines show signs of reworking. It is possible that half of Tutankhamun's burial equipment was stolen from other royals and hastily reinscribed. The establishment resists this conclusion because it undermines the mythology. If Tutankhamun's treasure is just recycled grave goods, it loses some of its mystique. Museums do not want to display the mask with a label that says stolen from Nefertiti. It complicates the narrative. It makes the ancient Egyptians look less noble and more desperate. But the data does not care about narratives. The quantum scan has opened a door that cannot be closed. Other institutions are now requesting access to the technology. There are calls to scan the Rosetta Stone, the bust of Nefertiti in Berlin, and the sarcophagus of Ramses II. If those objects also reveal hidden layers and altered identities, we will have to rewrite huge sections of the historical record. The resistance from traditional Egyptology is fierce. Some scholars argue that the quantum imaging is unreliable, that the data is being misinterpreted. They say the cellular material could be contamination from modern handling. They claim the cartouche alterations are just normal repairs. But these arguments are getting weaker. Independent labs have replicated the scans. The evidence is peer-reviewed and published. The mask was stolen. That is no longer a theory. It is a fact. The question now is, what do we do with that fact? Do we change the museum labels? Do we rename the artifact? Or do we keep the lie alive because the truth is too uncomfortable? The quantum data has created a crisis of authenticity, and the institutions that built their reputations on the old story are fighting to keep it intact. But the mask itself doesn't care. It sits in its climate-controlled case in Cairo, glowing under the lights, keeping its final secrets. The quantum scan only revealed what lies beneath the surface. It did not tell us where Nefertiti's body is. It did not tell us who ordered the desecration. And it did not reveal what other crimes are hidden in the Valley of the Kings, waiting for the next generation of scanners to expose them. The gold has spoken, but the dead remain silent. The discovery that the mask belonged to Nefertiti has reignited one of archaeology's greatest mysteries. Where is she buried? For over a century, archaeologists have searched for her tomb. Theories range from secret chambers in the Valley of the Kings to hidden burial sites in Amarna. Some believe she was buried alongside Akhenaten, while others think she was given a separate unmarked grave to prevent further desecration. The quantum data from the mask provides new clues. The biological imprint suggests her body was intact when the mask was applied. This means she received at least partial mummification. The preservation patterns indicate the process was rushed, but not skipped entirely. Someone prepared her body for burial, even if they later robbed her of her identity. That suggests a tomb exists somewhere, even if it was ransacked in antiquity. Recent ground-penetrating radar surveys in the Valley of the Kings have identified several unexplored chambers. One, located near Tutankhamun's tomb, shows anomalies consistent with a collapsed corridor leading to a sealed room. Some researchers believe this could be the entrance to Nefertiti's lost burial. The proximity to Tutankhamun would make sense if priests wanted to keep her hidden, but close enough to access her grave goods when needed. Radar results like these demand careful follow-up, but excavation is politically complicated. The Egyptian government is cautious about opening new tombs after past controversies. And there is fear that Nefertiti's tomb, if found, will be empty. Robbers had 3,000 years to strip it. Even if the chamber exists, it might contain nothing but broken pottery and scattered bones. Yet the quantum scan suggests at least one item survived: the mask. And if the mask survived, perhaps other objects did too. Some researchers have proposed using quantum imaging to scan the ground itself, looking for voids and density changes that might indicate hidden chambers. This technology could revolutionize archaeology, allowing us to map entire burial complexes without digging a single trench. But it is expensive, and funding for such projects is limited. For now, Nefertiti's tomb remains a ghost, glimpsed through the mask but still out of reach. Revolutionize is the promise, not yet the reality. The mask has become a cipher, a piece of evidence pointing toward a crime scene we have not found yet. And until we do, the questions will multiply. Was she murdered? Did she die naturally? Was her burial the result of political necessity or personal vengeance? The gold cannot answer these questions, but it can lead us to the place where the answers are buried. There is one last piece of data from the scan that researchers are still arguing about. In the deepest layers of the gold, at the quantum level, the scanner detected something that should not exist: organized molecular structures that do not match any known metallurgical process. The gold atoms are arranged in patterns that look almost crystalline, as if they were grown rather than hammered. This should not be possible with ancient smelting techniques. Quantum findings like these force us to rethink assumptions. Some physicists believe the Egyptians accidentally discovered a form of nanoengineering. By heating and cooling the gold in specific ways, they may have created a material that is stronger and more stable than pure gold should be. This would explain why the mask has survived in such pristine condition. The gold is not just gold. It is a composite material, enhanced at the atomic level through a process we have lost. Others take a more speculative view. They point to ancient texts that describe gold as living metal, material imbued with divine energy. What if the Egyptians weren't being metaphorical? What if they understood something about the nature of matter that we're only now rediscovering? The quantum scan shows the gold is more complex than it appears. It is structured in ways that suggest intentionality at a level that defies our understanding of ancient technology. This has led to fringe theories that the technology wasn't purely Egyptian. Some researchers, drawing on controversial interpretations of ancient texts, suggest the knowledge came from somewhere else. Whether that means an earlier advanced civilization, lost to history, or something even stranger, is a matter of wild debate. What's undeniable is that the gold in the mask is not ordinary. It has been altered at a fundamental level, and we do not know how or why. The quantum data has created more questions than answers, and that is the nature of true discovery. We thought we had solved the mask. We thought we knew its story, but every layer we peel back reveals another mystery. The mask was stolen. That much is clear, but from whom it was truly stolen, and what secrets it still holds, remains unknown. So here is the question that should keep you up at night. If the most famous artifact in human history turned out to be a lie, what else have we gotten wrong? How many museum pieces are stolen identities? How many heroes of history are wearing someone else's face? The quantum scan has proven that gold can lie. It can hide names, erase lives, and rewrite the past. But it cannot lie forever. Technology is catching up to the truth, and the truth is far stranger than the legends we were taught. Let me know what you think. Was the mask a political cover-up, or was there something more sinister happening in the 14th century BCE? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want to explore more hidden histories that science is only now uncovering, hit that like button and subscribe. The past is not finished with us yet, not by a long shot. Thanks for watching.